Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Ruparna Sanstita Namastashay 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 Namo Namaha. I bow to the infinite in the form of the Divine Mother, in my Guru and in you. That infinite one has expressed himself through you, but you are not what you think you are. You are just one manifestation of the infinite. And the wonderful thing is that each manifestation is unique. Every person is different, not just because of the various experiences that he has accrued, which make everyone individual, but behind that individuality, behind that personality, there is still an essence that is different in everyone. I would like to read a very interesting passage here in Conversations with Yogananda. 191 is the number. My understanding is that on this planet, Paramhansa Yogananda was and has been for many incarnations a special instrument of God who keeps returning in different forms to render special assistance according to God's requirements for the world's evolution. Many other roles he has played. I have been, among other things, he told us, a ruler, a poet, a warrior, a hermit many times. My role as a ruler explains a natural interest I have in national and international affairs, and a certain aptitude I have for them. I have been a poet, that is why poetry has come easily to me in this life. I have been a warrior. To me, that explains the fiery aspect of his personality. In Spain, his mission seems to have been to fulfill God's will for Christendom, to save its tradition. Today we would call it the Judeo-Christian tradition. He had told us also that he had been Arjuna, the great hero of the Mahabharata. Always his role seems to have been to uplift humanity, and not only to save a few spiritually seeking souls. He has been sent to launch great movements, those which were destined to affect the course of history. Thus, the theologians are not wrong in countering the claim of mystics that God cares only for man's inner life. The claim of theologians has been that God is concerned also with the larger historical developments. And meditating on Paramhansa Yogananda's life and on those of others like him, one sees such indeed to have been the case. Someone once asked Anandamayi Ma, that great woman saint in India whom I used often to visit, what will be the future of this planet in view of the violent nature of these times? She replied, don't you think he who created this world knows how to take care of it? My own deep belief is that Paramhansa Yogananda is one of God's channels for taking care of this world. Someday I believe he will be seen as the avatar of Dwapara Yuga. Indeed, his entire life seems to have been designed with that purpose in mind, to point toward a higher age that would include a greater awareness of energy. I have spoken before and explained at length before in this book about the Yugas. So Swami Sri Yukteswar, my Param Guru, my Guru's Guru, was a great man of wisdom, but he was also a great astrologer. And he, more than other masters, many masters have simply accepted what is the common belief that we are in Dwapara Yuga, but he said that is wrong. He said that during the descent into Kali Yuga, mankind's consciousness was not very clear, and so they couldn't understand the meaning of the Yugas believers and just kept on perpetuating what they thought was Kali Yuga, and they justified it later when they were beginning to, it was beginning to ascend. The nadir was in 500 AD, or most exactly 499 AD. That was the lowest point of Kali Yuga. The way Sri Yukteswar explained it was that in the center of our galaxy, there is a central sun from which radiates great spiritual power. We have a dual. Many stars have been observed already to have duals. No astronomer so far has found a dual to our sun, but so many things that Swami Sri Yukteswar wrote in his book, The Holy Science, in 1894, were fulfilled many years later. Almost everything was fulfilled, has been fulfilled already. Things science didn't know, astronomy didn't know, but has been proved to be true. That this one also seems quite possibly something that will be proved later. In fact, astronomers have already said that certain discrepancies in the movement of the outer planets suggests as a possible explanation that we have a dual sun which exerts a certain gravitational pull on those planets and causes their orbits to be eccentric. Now, it could easily be a brown star, that is to say, not a bright one such as other stars. It could easily be that. You know, Jupiter was almost a star. It was just not quite big enough to be a star. But the thing is that my guru's guru explained, my Param Guru explained, that as our sun rotates around this dual, it comes closer to that center and farther away. Now, some people might say it doesn't move much relative to the huge size of this galaxy to make much difference spatially, but it could also be the distance, because when that sun is that dual star to our own is between us and that grand central sun, that is the deepest point. So it may be that too, that as we come around relative to this dual, so that we are the ones closest to that grand central, maybe that is what causes us to be in Satya Yuga. But he said that the yugas are a matter of rotation and coming closer, more openly exposed to those spiritual rays, and then being withdrawn from them to their farthest point. And so this idea that many people have in India today is that you go suddenly from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga. Well, that's not the way anything happens in nature. Look at how winter becomes gradually warmer and warmer, then spring, then heats up even more, becomes summer, then cools off slightly and becomes autumn, which cools even more, and then becomes winter again. Day goes into twilight and then gradually into night, and only after a little bit do you see the stars. Then gradually the stars disappear, and finally the sun comes up and you have dawn. Everything in nature is cyclic. And so how can we explain? At least Sri Yukteswar gave an explanation. There is no natural explanation for man reaching a pit of such absolute depravity, as to call it the depths of Kali Yuga, suddenly to become enlightened. I asked my guru one time, will the same people who are being born, the same souls that are being born today in this world, be with us still in Satya Yuga? He said, no, only a few. He said, there are many planets, as I've told you many times, he said, many planets in this universe that they can go to. And you are drawn to that planet that vibrates with your own particular karma, your own particular vibrations. We are living now in a period of great testing, and that testing will get worse before we come up more into an age of, relatively speaking, much greater harmony. But in fact, just an interesting sidelight. There was someone who put many people under hypnosis and regress them backwards. And you've probably heard about this being done, regressing people into past lives and remembering. And I've known people who, under hypnosis, could even speak Sanskrit and know things they couldn't possibly know in their ordinary wakeful lives. These were Americans. But in this great cycle of time, we have to go through many things. And she asked these people particularly not to go back to a former life, but to go back to the in-between life stage. And some couldn't remember, but a significant number did remember. And she asked them this question: why were you born in this time? Well, not one of them said that they were afraid. They all said it was a wonderful opportunity to grow spiritually. Don't lament the times in which we are living, which have been hard and will be harder. Don't lament that, because it's an opportunity to burn up a great deal of bad karma from the past. It's an opportunity to learn many lessons, and the world itself will be purified, and those who are born later will be of a type quite different. You can see these things happen. Even the young children today can somehow understand computers. There's a change. I don't even want to know about computers except to the extent that I can use them for writing books, but the techniques, I should say the technical side of it, doesn't really interest me. But young people, even children, seem to be experts at it. And it's very interesting to me that Indians who they have very bright minds, and they're very good at these computers. I don't know if they're outshining America yet. They seem to be heading in that direction at least. Many of the computer scientists in America are Indians. This time in which we are living, many people are born to suffer. That's their karma. And the beautiful thing was that when they weren't in that body and could look forward to their lives ahead, none of them regretted it. They all understood that it was an opportunity. But this yuga in which we are living right now, it's already manifestly an age of energy. The criteria of the different yugas are complete involvement in matter, thinking that matter is the final reality. In Dwapara Yoga, which really only means second yoga, but the classical definitions and explanation of it are it's an age of energy. And the people in Dwapara Yoga understand. This came along, and I think it was in 1905, 11 years after Sri Yukteswar wrote his book. They discovered that matter is energy. People today think in those terms much more. That's why computers have been invented. And the progress, back in 1889 or something like that, the man in charge of the United States Patent Office recommended quite seriously to Congress in America that they close the patent office because everything that could possibly be invented had already been invented. He was thinking in a Kali Yuga way. Now, with this coming age of energy, they've discovered the telephone and the radio and how to use energy in so many different ways. We're living in an age when people think more in terms of energy. And this will go on more and more. It won't stop. Back in 1949, I think it was in Popular Science Monthly, a monthly magazine, some expert declared that someday computers may weigh as little as 1 ton. It wasn't very much longer that they were discovering microchips. In 1979, the head of IBM said that computers will never be in the home. They'll never be that small. Now, practically everybody seems to have a laptop You can carry it along just a few pounds. This is just the beginning of Dwapara Yuga. All modern discoveries basically have not been mechanical, but based on energy. I remember what Rube Goldberg was a cartoonist who used to make these fantastic inventions. Very complex. You would push a lever here, which would move a lever there, which go through all these various things, which finally would pop a pea into somebody's mouth. People used to think in those terms that if you do it like Archimedes with the pulley, he said that if you give me a place to stand on, I will be able to lift the earth with pulleys. Well, this is a way of thinking that is very much changed already in our lifetime. It's much easier today than it was in Swami Sri Yukteswar's day. There is always a Shandhya, a transitional period. We entered Dwapara in a general sense, in the Shandhya sense, in the year 1700. And it was for 200 years. And the first Shandhya is 100 years. So it took 100 years to come out of Kali, 200 years to get into Dwapara. During that period is when the Industrial Revolution took place, when so many inventions and new ways of doing things and new ways of doing business, etc., were discovered. In the year 1900, Swami Sri Yukteswar led a parade through the streets of Serampore and declaring that this was now Dwapara Yuga proper. And some people even threw stones, believe it or not. They were so absolutely adamant. Most people I've encountered believe that it's still Kali Yuga. And they point to the fact that things have been getting worse, and granted, they seem to have been getting worse. But if they continue getting worse at that rate, I have to say that by the time we reach the destined end of Kali Yuga, which will be more than 400,000 years from now, if they keep on getting worse at that rate, we're just not going to be human beings anymore. It'll be a bunch of snails walking on the ground and turtles and whatever. It's impossible to continue at that rate. What is really happening is that there is this great war in the ether between the dark Kali Yuga consciousness and the relatively light Dwapara Yuga consciousness. And for example, young people who are, they seem to have lost their moral direction. The truth of it is that they no longer feel comfortable being guided by just tradition, which is fixed. They want to find out for themselves. So they get into drugs, so they get into free sex, so they get into all sorts of errors. But it's a period in which they're discovering that that kind of freedom doesn't give you freedom. Real freedom doesn't mean doing what you want to do despite what everybody says, something that is unpredictable. Real freedom means to be able to live by what is truth, to live by principles, which people discover in themselves and discover that this way makes me happy and that way doesn't. And when they've learned this and when they've exploded in huge international suffering, they will be so tired of violence, and they will begin to realize that what they want is the old values. They won't change. And so thy light, which shines in us always, is the light that we should always seek, no matter how dark and how deep the darkness is. Joy to you.
Thy light within us shining has shown where freedom lies from earthly walls confining to soaring spirit skies. How oft like sheep we've strayed apart, now guided by thy ocean where freedom lies, from earthly walls confining, to soar in spirit